until recently, and I still somewhat do this to some extent, but I lived very often in my imagination. And I had, until recently even, I had this imaginary life. It was very good, whether it was me personally, and then this is what I imagined my life to be, and this is what I wanted it to be, or I was a different person than I actually am, and I had this whole life that wasn't this one.
Flipping through the pages of my old journals, with every turn another memory, and dusty words bring pictures to my mind. I see the marks of the passage of time.
Hello, welcome to the 16th episode of Journaling Through the Years. This is the series on this channel where I read from my journals that I have written in since I was old enough to hold a pen. We've been reading this one. I love the pink whale version from high school. And so yeah, we're gonna read a little bit more of that today and see what comes out. The thing is I don't read these before I read them with in front of the camera. So I did look through a little bit, and looks like we got some really juicy things to read and discuss. It's a little chilly outside today. We've had another good rainstorm. We hopefully have more to come, which is really good because my county has been in a drought, as most places are now, and so I always celebrate the rain, and I always feel like my garden and my plants outside are so thankful. But we're also supposed to have a freezing, it's supposed to be frozen, or what is it? A freezing snap? This tonight. And I have to make sure I cover up some of my tomato plants and such because it's going to get cold. And I was very surprised by it. I did not think it was going to be that cold when I went out for my morning dog walk. I'm a dog walker. It's one of my jobs, one of my gigs. And I went out and I did not have the warm enough jacket. So now I've got my coffee, and I've got my, this is my favorite. One of my partners made this for me, and I really like it. He didn't really make it for me. He made it for a bunch of people last winter and took it around to a bunch of homeless people, and then he had one, I guess, made it for me, made for some for his friends. So I treasure it. It's really nice. Looks good on me. And so yeah, let's get started. So today we are back to the emo 15-year-old version of me. I'm going to use my handy dandy TARDIS and put my journal on it, see if that helps. Handy dandy TARDIS. It's always handy dandy. I should really figure this out before I record, but you're getting the real deal here. That's not going to work. Okay. There was too many, all this stuff in there, and then that we went through a couple episodes ago. So too much. It's too heavy to hold that. So here we go. This first one ends abruptly, and it seems like it's the start of a story, and it sounds like it would be it's a really interesting start. I begin. I stand erect as a tree. Nice, kind of an interesting description right off the bat. On the platform of an empty train station with 3 young children to care for. My old crotchety uncle, who really isn't my uncle, and Grammy all decked out. So is the Grammy all decked out, or am I decked out? I don't know. But that's where it ends. And it is quite curious. So maybe I'll read this again at the end, and maybe in the comments you can start writing the rest of the story, who this person is and what they're gonna go do. So let's get a little bit more serious. Here we go. I'm short of breath. I try to take oxygen in. to relax a little, bit, but the tears brim over and fall down hot cheeks. I wander about the house at 2 a.m., listlessly afraid to sleep, yet I fear consciousness. I wish you were here again with me. We'd make love once more, like we did before, my head laid down upon your chest, holding me close. You'd whisper something, you'd whisper soothing words until at last I slept. Now alone I sit in a rocking chair, wishing to hear you question whether I could lie against your chest as the tears fall from my lids, and hold me till it's all better, and my hair sticks to my wet cheek, flushed with pain, yet I am here, lonely and heartbroken, with not a soul in this world who seems to care. Passers-by that I wish to cry out, yet my lips move not, and on the people travel. You took the off-ramp onto a small private road with your girlfriend, and I await your entrance. So that is a doozy. It's interesting because sometimes I feel like I'm using imagery that and describing something outside of myself that isn't me, and yet I think it's connected to some real life me. And I've been thinking about this a lot because until recently, and I still somewhat do this to some extent, but I lived very often in my imagination. And I had, until recently even, I had this imaginary life. I was very good, whether it was me personally, and then this is what I imagined my life to be, and this is what I wanted it to be, or I was a different person than I actually am, and I had this whole life that wasn't this one. And I think that was an escape. I know now that was an escape from my real life situation, from, as a coping mechanism as a child, in youth, growing up, and 20-something, in the trauma that I was dealing with, and all of that. I think it's a coping strategy to kind of escape from what is going on around me, where I can have free will of what I want to do with my life. And so I've done that up until recently, and I've noticed that I'm stopping to do that. And in that, I'm taking better care of myself and enjoying these little things, like making myself a yummy meal, like having like regular meals, like, okay, I have breakfast, and then, I'm going to make this really delicious lunch, and even if it's like something a microwave dinner or whatever, and then I make a nice dinner, and I'm like, oh, this is good, and it was fun to do. Celebrating these things that are real and that concrete, and feeling this sense of groundedness. And I think a lot of my not being grounded, not being stable, not being secure was based on these other worlds, these other lives that I created, whether it was like my own name, or whether it was a person that I created because I wanted that to be my life, and I didn't want it to be my life. And as that is a useful tool for a person like me, I mean, maybe that's why I'm so creative and such a good actor and such a good writer, is because I have this very active imagination that I wish could be my real life. And it was different when I was a child. I think it was almost in that sort of Narnia, sense that I would go to. And then as I got older, it became almost, I just had another old person that I wished I could be, and I had a name for them, and I had like a whole family, and a whole life, and I could imagine their house and my house. It was not their house, it was my house, and how they lived, and that they were happy, and they had a real healthy, normal life. And so I think, back to this, it's interesting to me that there are times when I feel like, I don't think I ever, when I was growing up in my childhood home, wandered about the house at 2 a.m. because I would wake people up. Maybe I did. I don't think I did. I mean, unless it was just like down the hall and back, but and I don't think I sat somewhere in the rocking chair, but I think I used this imagery because maybe I'd seen it in a movie or read it in a book about people that did that. And so that is one more stance of separating myself from my pain, to put it outside of myself, if that makes sense. And I took the off-ramp. You took the off-ramp onto a small private road with your girlfriend. I like that. And I wait your entrance. And you almost want to say, don't. He's off with a girlfriend. Let him be. But I also see a lot of myself. You talk about escaping and putting my pain into this other imaginary person that I want to be, or putting it outside of myself and not owning it in a sense. I feel like I know this. A person with relationship addictions, I looked at another person as a drug, as my savior, or another entity, or another object, whatever it would be. It was, generally speaking, it was another person. That's why it's a relationship addiction and not any other sort of addiction. But I think that I know that I also used religion and Christianity as an escape, and also as a means, I think I've discussed this before, in the rigidity and the legalistic fundamentalism of it all. I could use such things as the purity culture to push people away and not allow love in, whatever that is. And so I could sort of secure and protect myself. And it just made it worse, to be honest. The pain was still there to be dealt with, and I had to deal with it at some point. And it came out, and it was ugly, but I survived. And I try to move on, and the people that I hurt when it all came out, I have made amends, and I continue to make amends, and I continue to be a better person, and I send back to them and to all those people throughout my life that may I never see again. I send back to them the love and hope that their lives are doing well, despite how I acted towards them in my own pain. And I hope they're doing well. He said he loved me, she said, bending over a picture of a guy sprawled out lazily on a sofa. Her brown hair fell in front of her face, hiding a tear falling from her eye. And I was stupid enough to believe him. So I love him now and forever. He said he loved me, she said, staring towards the floor until the phone bill got too high and the distance was too long. Now he's back and I'm not sure just what to do. I'll be leaving soon, but how can I keep myself from falling in love with him again? He said he loved me, she said, for 1.5 years. Then he walked a mile on my birthday in pouring rain, his tears mixing with the rain, to tell me he couldn't take it anymore, that we were through. I was sad for a couple days until I met another. Now he loves me and hasn't left. He said he loved me, she said. I swear, I tell you he did. Just a week before he broke up with me, he sent me 12 roses. He broke up with me at camp. It was my very last year. It really sucked. He said I had some traits that really bothered him. Now he doesn't even bother to call or write. When shall these tears stop a-falling? Shall I be happy once more? I picture your heart break away, come together, then fall apart. I still think about him. Every time I do, I smile. Every time I see him, my heart skips a beat. It still bothers me to picture him with another. I gave so much in our relationship, but he just threw it back. Now we know he's not welcome in my arms once more. So that is really interesting to me because I don't remember all these stories or who all these people were, but this was at the time based on my friends, my girlfriends, my female friends that we had been broken up with. And I think that the first one was me because I had a boyfriend that fell asleep on my couch and I took a picture of him and I remember he was mad about it, but I was like, it's private, I was asleep. And I was like, no, but it's so sweet, you're asleep, blah, blah, blah. And I think I ended up burning that picture because I can't find it. I think I burned it or threw it away, which is a good thing. And then I could see these other people. I don't know who the friend was that the phone bill. I don't know. And then he was back. I don't know who that was. The friend, the pouring rain, I remember that. I know who that was. I believe I know who the boyfriend from camp who broke up with her. I know who that was. I won't say though. And yeah, I just think that's interesting. It is special that I did have these friends who at the time were friends. They were good friends. I mean, they were very high school friends for the most part. The last one, the one that had the boyfriend from camp break up with her, she's a forever friend. I've known her since preschool, and she's still in my life, so she's good. She's solid. But I can see the high school ideology about love and relationships and heartbreak. But what I like about it is at the very end it says he's not welcome. So the last thing I was talking about, how I'm waiting for this guy to come back at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, and I'm heartbroken, and he's off with his girlfriend, and I just wait, because I need him. And then the difference now is I have all these friends, and we all went through a similar heartbreak, and I don't need him anymore. He's not welcome in my arms. And it's interesting that strength of friendship and that camaraderie of heartbreak, that you all can come together and uplift each other and say, we don't need him. Whether you believe it, whether at 2 a.m. you still believe that when you're all alone, which I don't think I did. And I think that's the nature of my life, of hiding from my own truth and my own pain. Not so much anymore, now that I've had those moments where all the ugliness has come out. And you realize you're still alive and you can't hide from it anymore, and you just heal and move. That's where the real healing becomes, at the most broken. But I think that I hid in relationships, or I would put on this front that I don't need him anymore, but I was afraid to really deal with the root issues of my life. So I think that is very interesting. I think I'm going to read 2 more. Yeah, this is a fun little one. See what you think about this one. Life is similar to a science project. Decide upon a hypothesis, then proceed. Sooner or later, you'll come up with a result, whether it's good or bad. And then I signed it Jules, which was my other nickname of mine, camp name. That's just okay. That was my 15-year-old idea of what life is. So one more, then we'll go back to the story. Follow me along this path, child, O innocent self. Heel to toe, along the dry grass, our bare feet crunching on the earthen floor. When I was a kid, I grew up in 5 acres, basically in the country. And I learned one summer to walk everywhere barefoot and not, the pricklers just stopped bothering me. I learned how to know where to step and how to get around without much difficulty. And now to this day, I could walk anywhere pretty much barefoot. There are times when I'm like, ow! But I can't. And I surprise my friends. They're like, how can you walk around without, this is like a rocky road, and doesn't it hurt your feet? I'm like, no, it feels really good. So that's interesting that here I am probably writing to I'm 15 or 16, and I'm writing to my child self, because that was so long ago, 15. And I'm talking about our bare feet crunching on the earthen floor, because I love doing that now, and I love doing it then, and I always have. In a single file we walk. I stand in front, leading. Days ago you walked along here by yourself. I call to you to catch up. There is no reply of scurrying feet along warm pavement. Upon turning around, I noticed your invisibleness. Where are you, I wonder? Then I realize you am I am you. We are one and the same now. You've joined me. Alone now, I travel this path, leading my own life. I like that a lot. It reminds me of something I've been going through the last couple years. Specifically, I would say since 2019 was when I first started realizing it. When Luke Perry died, and his death was heartbreaking. It was like my childhood was ending. And I had this experience where I saw myself at 15, surprisingly, or 16, when I really loved that show, Beverly Hills 90210, and I was specifically Team Dylan. I loved Dylan. I liked Brandon. As you know, I have a quilt that I bought of all the things from Beverly Hills 90210, all the images and posters in this, and there's one that says, I want to go back to the time when my hardest problem was Brandon or Dylan. And yeah, I would go back and forth between the two because they're both good looking, or they were. Brandon, Jason Priestley is still amazing and great looking, and Luke was even as an older person. Anyways, I digress. I think I was like the bad boy. And I think that ultimately it came down to I was a Team Dylan, and I loved Dylan and Brenda together. I think I loved the drama of it all. I did, I liked Brenda. Definitely Brenda. Definitely even to this day, I've modeled my look after Shannon Doherty, and the hair and her new style, the way she just like wears a lot of times like cool t-shirts and pants. I'm like, that's sexy. So I still model myself after her, but I do like, Jenny Garth. And surprisingly, I like Tori Spelling now. I didn't really think about it then, but now I'm like, she's cool. She's hilarious, and she like makes fun of herself, and I enjoy that about her. And she seems really open. And so I'm surprised how much I like her now. Where was I? Oh, yes. So it started in 2019, and it reminds me of this, what we just read, in the sense that, so I imagine this younger self, this 15-year-old self, and I remember sitting with her and feeling her pain, and I didn't have, I remember I was like waiting for a paycheck, and she was sobbing, and she was like, I want the t-shirts. This person that I loved died. My lipstick is all funky. Oh well, look at that, it's all over the place. Ooh. Anyways, and she didn't understand. She was such a child at the time. And then she was looking at me, and she goes, why have you forgotten? Why have you not, like, you've hidden this side of yourself that you so much loved Beverly Hills 90210, and that you were such a fan. And she felt that I was ashamed of her. And so much of her young life when she was a teenager and growing up, she felt like she had to hide so much of herself. And so I bought the t-shirts for her. Even though I was days away from needing money. It was really bothering me. And even though I was days away, and I wasn't broke, but whatever. And I ordered them, and there was such a relief. And then since then, I have been able to kind of honor her. I mean, I have a Luke Perry doll in its package hanging in my bedroom wall above my bed, and I'm planning on getting more. And so I'm honoring her. And then later on, I had the experience of going back to a coffee shop that I hung out a lot when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and especially when I was going through my big break. First diagnosis with bipolar, and I didn't know what I was doing with my life, and a lot of my friends were moving on. They'd graduated college, and they were like, oh, careers and all that mindset, and I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. And I would sit and I would write at the coffee shop and read, and coffee shops have always been a reprieve, and I would just be so depressed. And and so I had the experience a few years ago, 2019, where I went to that same coffee shop, and I sat in one of the same tables, and I was sitting with her, and it was like I was telling her, my old self, you're going to survive. You're going to make it through, and it's going to be amazing. You're going to find your purpose, and it's going to be different than it's not going to be conventional with society, but it's going to fulfill you, and you're going to be prosperous with it more and more. And yeah, it was really nice. And I can think of more times I did that, but right now I can't. I know that I've done, I think right now I am really visiting my younger self, as I've been watching a lot of Night Court, and that was when I was pretty little, and stuff like that. So I have yet to visit the Saturday Night Live early 20s girl, late teens, early 20s version of myself. But right now I think I'm sitting with the child of me, the early years, and just allowing my Night Court freak flag to fly, and enjoying watching the old episodes and watching them like one after another, and realizing I watched a lot of them even if they were out of order. Anyways, let's go back to the story, and in the comments below you can write down how you think it ends or add on to it. It could be pretty fun. I stand erect as a tree on the platform of an empty train station with 3 young children to care for, my old crotchety uncle, who really isn't my uncle, and Grammy, all decked out. So that's your writing prompt. I will write it in the comments below. And I look forward to hearing your answers. And I will see you next week. Thanks.